G'day everyone and welcome to the final edition for 2023 of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by CrowCast, of course. You'll notice that there's no graphics, there's nothing. I just had a massive hard drive failure and the other day, and I tried to restore it and I couldn't, and I just spat the dummy. So I'm not even going to talk about it, Macca. I'm just going to come right into it. How you going, mate? Looking forward to bed tonight? Oh, I can't hear you for some reason. Hang on a second. Why can't I hear you? Hang on, let me just feed you into the right bloody things. There we go, that's better. Now, talk again. I reckon people can hear you now.
Okay, I just said I had a bit of a rugged weekend socially, and looking forward to bed tonight.
Well, I don't know whether you can see, Macca, but hang on a second. This here is what's left of the CrowCast hard drive with all the graphics on it.
Well,
my freaking hard drive with all my stuff on it blew up. And I thought, oh, it's probably just the bloody power supply on the external hard drive, so I'll just take the hard drive out, and here's the friggin' hard drive, and that didn't work either. So people are just going to have to put up with the fact that we're bare bones today, mate.
Well, it'll still be as good.
Well, I don't know. I did have some saved, but not a lot, unfortunately. Never mind. Shut up, Rabbit. I don't want to hear about any tech stuff.
Only because you're right,
all right,
Rabbit.
mate. Yeah, piss off, all of you. I mean, I did have some of it saved to the cloud, so it's not a total loss, but some of the graphics that I use, I haven't had time to load it back up into OBS and CBF, basically, Macca. So here we are. We've done a season, we've done a trade week, we've done a draft, we've done an AFLW final. Where are we at, mate?
Well,
let's talk about the trades and draft first. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that's a very good starting point, because that's what I made my notes on. So I think it's a good point to start.
Good on you.
Look, it's very interesting because First of all, we did do one trade, and that was and that was Burgess from the Gold Coast. He's 194 centimetres, and look, he's not a star player by any means, but he's not hopeless by any means. And I think he's like an insurance policy, either back or forward, more likely back. Although he did play all of this year up forward, and they had a very good year in their twos, but he couldn't crack the A grade because they did have good forwards themselves in the A grade. So look, he could be handy in case of injury, but I don't think he's going to have a long career with us. So
I think the fact he's a swingman. I think the fact he's a swingman, Macca, probably got him over the line there. He can play forward or back, and with Murray, Murray probably a few months away, and things are a little bit thin in defence. I don't think it was a terrible move. Didn't really cost us anything, so you can't really knock that one.
Yeah, they asked what his contract length is. It's 1 year. He's got a 1 year contract.
Yep.
Yep. Then we also we had traded out, of course. We had Duday, who went as a free agent to Queensland, to Brisbane, and I thought we did very well getting an end of first rounder for him. So then after that, we only had the 3 draft picks. So if you look at our ins, we've only got 4 ins. And
hang on, before we move on, don't forget we had a dip at a couple of people. Obviously, Goldilocks came on the scene, and that was a weird one that came out of nowhere, and by all reports we had a crack at him.
Goldilocks?
Yeah, Oliver.
Okay. Yeah, we did. In fact, I would say that if he had have left Melbourne, we would have been the front runners for that. And that's what I saw reported. And look, in hindsight, look, at the time I thought this is marvellous, but then when you read about the problems they've been having with him, and then you think, well, yeah, he's a great player, but is that good for the club to bring in a player with an attitude like that? I don't think so.
I don't know, Mac. I mean, you look at a lad like Tyson Stengel, who came over to us from Richmond with a bit of a checkered past, maybe a substance issue. You know, got into a bit of strife with us and got royally kicked out of the club. Comes back and plays in the premiership and plays a key role in a premiership with Geelong. You know,
that's, I mean, true,
I would have thought back in your day, mate, there would have been a few blokes playing for Torrens and for other SANFL clubs that had questionable private lives, and sometimes I do understand.
Only about 70% of them.
Yeah, well, including yourself. You know, I do understand the hesitancy with regards to, you know, behavioural issues and whatnot, but he's a top 5 freaking midfielder in the competition, and that's not going away.
I think he's probably number 1.
So, you know, I mean, he was doing that with all the stuff going on in the background before. You know, we've had Dusty Martin with questionable stuff going on. There's tons of players that have had issues off field, and you know, at the end of the day, we're a footy club and we're a results-driven organisation, and I think it's up to the club in those circumstances. And Melbourne are going to have to deal with that. And they've clearly dealt with it up until now. So, yeah, I had no problems with us going for him, and, you know, I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get him in the end.
Well, he certainly, on a football sense, would have made a massive difference to us because, I mean, the guy just gets the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, and then we had Harrison Petty as well came on the radar, and that one seems to have a lot of legs, mate. I think eventually Harry Petty will be a Crows player, unless something goes drastically wrong within the next year or two.
Yeah. Certainly we'll have, I think we'll have another crack at him in the next 2 years. It's a question of whether we've got enough capital next year to have a crack at him when we've got father-sons coming through as well. So
yeah, but like 1990 says in the chat, I don't know whether it'll be next year, but we'll certainly have a dip on his free agency year.
Oh, that would be definite. Yeah, that would be definite. And the boy wants to come home. The only thing he wouldn't do, and full credit to him actually, he didn't request a trade, so that situation couldn't be forced. But because he felt obligated with 2 years to go on his contract, it's more likely when you've got 1 year on your contract, you're going to have a crack at that, because then it probably favours the team to actually trade rather than letting go into free agency.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
no, look.
We had a crack at a couple others, you know, the halfback from Essendon, but
no, we didn't. That was not happening.
I know you always said he was never going to come, and you proved to be right. I don't know how you knew that.
I don't have to reveal all my sources.
But to your credit, you always did say we won't get him.
Well, I didn't even say we won't get him. I just said he was never coming. He was never leaving Essendon.
I know you did say that, and you proved to be right.
Anyway, look, you know, so, and then of course the one I think that was contentious in terms of losses was McAdam, Mac.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention him. Yeah,
bit 50-50 each way on him. He's certainly an X-factor player. Had rotten luck in 2023, in my opinion. got absolutely reamed by the tribunal early doors, got injured, found it difficult to force his way back in, and played quite well when he did eventually come back in. And, he was always going to be that one, Mac, that had a bit of currency. But by the same token, do we have the backfill?
Well, I think that we probably do, in the sense that if all the players are available, we've got a lot of players that can run through those roles, and it might mean that you have to play Pedler and Rochelle closer to goal at times. It might mean Gallant comes in on occasions. I do think we've got the cattle there up forward to cope with that. I would have preferred to keep him. I really would have preferred to keep him because he, as you said, I mean, he had the year from hell. I mean, first of all, there were only 2 players for the whole season that got extra penalties of 2 matches for the potential to cause harm. Yeah. He was one, yeah. And in the Crows girl, trying to think of her name, Alan. She yep. got 3 for hers. It was a very minor offence, and 2 games were added on for the potential to cause harm, and only 2 people were suspended with that ridiculous addition. They were both Crows players, and in my opinion, I just think the VFL, AFL, they are very much anti us at times, and sometimes they really just kick us in the guts.
Well, the McAdam one was, I mean, I don't want to spend all night going through that, but it was clearly disproportionate to the rest of the season, and they discarded potential to cause injury by about halfway through the year. But it really cost Shane a season of AFL football, in my opinion. And, I guess what I'd say about McAdam is that, as I mentioned before, he was the one player that had a bit of currency. He was in a position where he was a cherry on top kind of player, good defensively in the forward half, and probably a bit spasmodic in terms of his output offensively. But when he was on, he was always dangerous. So. But by the same token, those qualities also meant that he was worth something. And I think when you actually weigh up where we are and his age, he was, I think he was, 29 or something, Mac? Not late start. I think, yeah. Late start, older player, a bit injury prone, but had currency. At the end of the day, as much as I'm a Shane McAdam fan, I think it was the right call. And also I think it's the right call for Melbourne too. I think he's exactly the sort of player that they need up forward, a bit of X factor, bloke who can, a mid-sized forward who can take a grab. So win-win, I think, that one in the end. Begrudging, when both sides are not quite happy with the outcome, it was one of those, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
So then we hit the draft, mate, and without talking about this, sorry, go on.
Just before we go there, I just wanted to go through one thing that a lot of people have asked: how come we only brought 4 players coming in, and we delisted 8 players, or 8 players went in total? And I thought I'd just explain that to anybody.
Yeah, sure, go.
Confused by that. We had 2 extra players in NGA, which are in addition to the normal amount of players you're allowed. And they'd been there for 3 years. And in fact, originally it was only 2 years they could be there. We did ask for a 3rd year, and we got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we asked for another extension this year, which we didn't get, of course. And which meant that those 2 players, or another 2 players, had to go. So that's 2 players. And then we had the situation where during the year when players got injured, first of all, we had Mackesy, and that he was replaced by Brown, and then later on in the year when we had injury, we got Keane come on, so we had 2 extra players come on. So we had 2 players more than the total allowed because we had 2 on the long-term injury list. So in total, that's the 4 difference. The
Yep.
2 NGA players and the 2 players that are added on during the year for long-term injuries. So a lot of people are confused. Why is it so different? Well, it's very simple. You're only allowed to have a certain number of players.
And I don't think there was any contentious delistings. I think the delistings that occurred were reasonable and warranted. We've re-rookied Ball Ace, which was probably the right option, I think. And we've brought in the lad, as 1990 says, Gallagher from Ireland is training with us at the moment as a possible Category B.
NGA.
That's Category B, isn't it?
Yep, Category B.
Not NGA, it's Category B.
Oh, Category B rookie. It can be an NGA or an overseas player. Yeah.
How can it be an NGA? Has to be a Category B rookie, doesn't it? He wasn't in our academy.
No. So Category B. Category B covers 2 things. It covers people in an academy, or it also covers, doesn't it?
No, Category B is just blokes that haven't been in the AFL, haven't been on an AFL club list or something for 2 years or some rubbish. It's basically for left field shit. Anyway.
Oh, okay, and also overseas players, yeah.
Yeah. So, by all reports, he's quite raw, but he was certainly one of the better Gaelic footballers in Ireland. So, could be a sneaky chance to. There's nothing to be lost by signing him on. And by all reports so far, training reports are that he's fitting in and obviously looks raw, but has some athletic ability that suggests he might make it as an AFL player.
Yeah, apparently, he's not totally foreign to the game, Dean, because he came out I
think he did a combine, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. 2019 or 2020, not sure which one. Or might have been 2021. It was, and it got all messed up by COVID. So
yeah.
Yeah, so the guy's had some experience with the footy and doing all sort of things. And I think he'll probably get it. I think he'll probably get listed.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah. So let's talk about draft night, because and leaving aside the picks just for a moment, and just talking about our little deal to get up to pick 8. How'd you see that? I thought that was an excellent move by what's his name?
Reed?
I was going to say
Reed?
Bannock. That would have been our little data analyst there that was getting on board that. But we had the deal to do with GWS. They wanted to stay in the draft, so we had the right picks in the right spots for them to do what they needed to do this year. Essendon came hard. West Coast obviously offered both GWS and then in turn asked their first pick for next year. But at the end of the day, GWS were happy to deal with us. They got the players they wanted, and we ended up, Macca, picking up another defender.
Well, I thought, it was an outstanding move, actually, to get a player like Curtin there. What we've done in the last 2 years is bring in ready-made players of a very good quality. That wasn't available to us this year, but what we've done is compensated by, I think, bringing in one of the best players in the draft. And, when you've got so many clubs wanting to get to that pick to get him, and apparently there was at least 4 or 5 other teams that were making offers. The guy's 197. He can play forward, he can play back, and he's also had a spell as a midfielder as well. And I watch some of the way he moves. He moves well. And Western Australia prepared to give up their... Sorry, not Western Australia. West Coast, they were prepared to give up their first-round draft pick next year to get him. So the guy is got talent, and he's really got talent. And I think he's probably one of the best lads we've drafted for a long, long time. 197 beast that moves well. and can play virtually any position on the ground. I don't think you could ask for more, Feen.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. And
as you do, yeah.
Well, I mean, we're here for discussion. And look, no doubting Curtin's credentials. He's a standout in this year's draft, no question. No question.
Mm.
There were a couple of other blokes that were bona fide midfielders that we could have taken.
Yep.
I understand our immediate injury concerns with Murray, but we do have cover for Murray. And whenever you draft a kid, it's a longer term view. So why wouldn't we have picked up a midfielder?
Well, we did pick up a midfielder with our next pick. So
no, it's not what I'm saying to you. No, don't dodge that question, Macca.
No, you're saying why didn't we use the pick that we had to get a midfielder? I think we did the right thing. You go in terms of the quality of the player that we got, and the fact that he will play as a defender originally. I think in long term he will probably become a midfielder, a big midfielder. I mean, if he does become at 197, I just think it's worth that gamble thing. And bearing in mind that we were always going to take another midfielder or take a midfielder with our next pick. I know that the midfielder you're talking about, who we could have had, but I think I like the mix of what we got, and I've got no criticisms of it.
Look, I'm not disappointed we got Curtin on our list because I think he's got tons of ability, and I'm glad that he's going to be wearing Crow's colours. I guess I just look back at our drafting over the last few years, Mac, and it's surprising to me in areas where we have the least amount of cattle, we've not spent our high draft capital on those positions, aside from probably Luke Pedler.
Yeah, but 1990 Crows nailed it in the point that the midfield talent wasn't quite as high. Some drafts are very deep in the midfielders. The one that was likely for us to take if we hadn't done this trade and got Curtin would have been Wilson, and he was a very quick player, but he was more of a wingman than a midfielder. I mean, he was playing as
I think Darcy Wilson is going to be an absolute champ.
Well, time will tell, and he may be. And
I don't think it's going to be on the wing.
Well, time will tell again with that as well. And he might be a very good midfielder, but he might be just turn out to be a very good wingman. I don't know because I can't tell the future.
Yeah, look, talent wise, obviously Curtin wins that handout. The other thing that puzzled me about the draft was the fact that Curtin is predominantly at this stage of his early career a defender. Yep. Why the hell didn't North Melbourne take him?
Well, North Melbourne unfortunately wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They really were besotted by midfielders. And I think they've got too many midfielders actually.
Well, that's the thing. They're like the reverse Crows. They've got a very, very strong midfield already.
Yes,
but they're devoid. Apart from Larkin, they've got stuff all either end of the ground. I would have thought Curtin would have been an absolute Monty for them.
I know, and they've loaded up again with the midfielders. So, look, I just think, the interesting thing about that is that Clarkson was very, very keen on Curtin, very keen. In fact, flew to Perth to talk to him. But obviously, and I think it is a good policy that clubs, their list management people make the decisions rather than allowing the coach to do it, which we did allow a couple of times for very costly decisions. You can't allow a coach to make the decisions. So, the list management team go through it all year and they go right through every player, and they have their analysis, and they work out who they want and who, their order of pecking order. And I know Clarkson was really very keen on Curtin, but North Melbourne had really locked themselves in onto these two players. So that was
I'm just wondering. I mean, I agree with you regarding the coach not influencing recruiting decisions. I just can't understand the recruiting team not thinking that if Curtin's there at 2 or 3 that they don't take him.
Yeah, as I say, they want their cake and eat it too. They couldn't bear the thought of not getting Dersman as well, you see. And they're always going to take McKercher because I think he's a real gun, McKercher. He's going to be
he is a good player. He will be a good player. But Dersma is the weird one because I don't even think they're in the same conversation, to be honest with you.
I totally agree with you, Feen. I totally agree with you. I think you're correct in what you're saying, but North of it, as I said, they locked themselves into those two a long time back, and
yeah,
and I think you're right. They've got to have a hell of a good midfield, but they haven't got a lot going in the other positions.
No, I mean they've got Will Phillips to come back into. He had a year off basically with glandular fever and struggled, so he'll be better for a year away from that. And I've got a lot of time for Will Phillips. I think he's a very smooth mover. They got Powell in his second year. Plus, they've got 3 really good midfielders, probably in the top half, or probably in the top dozen in the AFL. I would have thought. Dave Suniacki and Simpkin and the other lad that I can't think of right now. They've got a
Aaron
really
Thomas?
good,
Tarrant
really
Thomas.
good, strong midfield. Head scratcher for me. But anyway, look, so let's not dwell on North. So we got Curtin, and like I said, I was playing devil's advocate because I'm really not disappointed to have him on our list. And look, I guess it's the way the cards fall that in the last couple of seasons we've taken a couple of big guys and a small forward. Bloody moth buzzing me around, bugger off. And I guess we've got a lot depends, I think, on a couple of lads that had building years last year. I think Sam Berry, by all reports, has trimmed down a bit, is moving a lot more freely. The club maybe thought he was a little bit too bulky. He's leaned up a little bit and has been training well. You've got Will Dowling that I think the club has a lot of expectation on. I think on Dowling. I think Billy Dowling could be a surprise packet, but whether he's got the class, Macca, to end up being an elite AFL midfielder, I'm not quite sure. Josh Rochelle has come back trim and training the house down. Isaac Rankin, if the club, Mark Rashudo made a couple of comments last year about Rankin not being a midfielder. If the club don't play Isaac Rankin as a midfielder in 2024, then someone needs to be taken out the back and beaten, because he is the closest thing to Andrew McLeod that we have seen since Andrew McLeod, hands down.
Yeah.
His step, his ability to get free, his ability to read the play, his ability to accelerate out of a contest and hit a target. He is a dead set freaking midfielder. The end.
Yeah. I agree with 1990 Crow. He said that Rankin should be 60-40, and I agree with that because he's so good around the forward line too. So he's a guy that you should definitely give bursts through the midfield. And
I don't think he's a burst midfielder. I think he's a midfielder first, Macca.
Well, he may well be. He's got the talent to be at that. He can really be anything he wants. But I like, you like him around the goals as well because goals win games, and so
yeah. But he's a bit hit and miss around goals, to be honest.
Yeah, but I think I know he was last year, but I reckon 1 year he's going to have a year where he really pours it on. He's got that ability to do so.
Yeah.
And
Josh Rochelle is another one. Rochelle, I think, has shown up Well, I'm really pleased by reports and the vision that they streamed the other day to see Josh Rochelle come back as fit as a mallee bull, running PBs, shitting on everyone in time trials, all the rest of it. Because I felt like Rash played a little bit arrogantly, and I'm
Yes.
glad that he's gone away and thought, all right, I've got to work a bit harder. And I reckon he could be another bloke in the midfield pot.
Yep, and should be. No, not could be, should be. He's another one that should have stints through there, and then and I'm not talking about long stints, but they just have a run through there, a few minutes, then back to the forward lines.
No, I see. This is a game where I disagree with you. You need, like, Rochelle and Rankin are class, and you need class around the ball, Macca. They're not there for short bursts. They are your classy players. You have, if you have a look at a team like Melbourne, for example, they've got Viney, and the other lad, I can't think of his name, who are the grunt players, and you got Petrarca and Oliver, who are the class. We need more class in the midfield. We have a lot of workhorses in the midfield at the moment, and we need that little bit of brilliance, that little bit of sparkle, a turn of foot, Brayshaw, thanks 1990, around the contest that can break a contest open and get in behind the opposition. I don't agree that Rankin and Rochelle are bit players in the midfield. I actually think they are first line midfielders in the making.
You also forgot one player, Pedler. Okay, I think Pedler's got a big opportunity. No, but what I'm saying is that Pedler, I was reading about an article that he was talking, and he was saying, he said that he's not really a half-forward flanker. He's playing there because he's not fit enough to be a midfielder, but he wants to be a midfielder.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a very fair summary of the situation. So, he's being very honest about it. I thought for a guy who's not half-forward, he did a very good job. And the time when he did have his little burst in the middle, I think he showed that he could eventually be our best midfielder, yeah.
Yeah, look, I've been a G for Peds for a while. I mean, he played a lot of his juniors as a half forward for the same reason. He a few injuries and didn't have much of a tank, but he's dead set Gary McIntosh, Macca, as far as I'm concerned.
You're right. Yep.
But he's Gary McIntosh, but a bit quicker. He can get that separation through leg speed as well as through strength. And he just has a will about him. I really like him. Obviously, we've kept some old stages in there as well with obviously Sloan and Matt Crouch and Rory Laird in there. You would hope that the club transition away from that over the next, ensuing season, because we really need to move away from that little triumvirate. And we got Benny Keys as well, who probably shifted out of the midfield to a large extent in 2023.
Yeah, I think you'll see that as a progression during the year. I think we'll probably start off very conservatively with the guys that you mentioned as the grunt players, and then I think as the season goes along, it'll gradually alter, and it could well be that Crouch, for example, may eventually drop out during the course of the season when the young lads take over.
I'm not as confident as you, Macca, because if you remember last season, we got ourselves in a good position on the back of playing you through the midfield, and in the back half of the season, we showed the trends, with the stats. We reverted back to the norm, and we actually we didn't show any faith in the kids that actually got us into the position that we were in at the halfway mark. So, yes, that absolutely should happen, what you're describing. I'm not as confident as you that that's actually what will happen, because I feel like as soon as the club gets in a position where it can contend, it tends to fall back to experience. We are very risk averse when it comes to young players.
Yeah, look, time will tell, but I think that's what should happen, and we'll see whether it does happen.
Yeah, so let's talk about the other two draftees. Of course, we had the lad Edwards, who's a very tall midfielder. What is he, 194, I think?
He's 191. Oh, hang on. I've got it
191?
written here. 191,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, and I reckon I really like him, actually. I didn't know much about him until his name came up, and then I watched a bit of footage and that, and I actually really like him.
Well, he was on my list as a want. Before we did the Curtin trade, my wants were Wilson and then Charlie Edwards. It was my second pick. So if I've been picking him, and and I haven't done any research and nothing like they've done, but just on my amateur research, he was one that I would have definitely been looking at as our second choice, and which he turned out to be. So I was very pleased when we got him.
Yeah. Looks like he won't be too far away. And let's not forget, we've got a couple of lads in the two. Still Taylor coming back from an injury. We got Harry with coming probably 12 months on the bench with his Achilles. So we've got a lot of young midfielders that the jury's still out on, I guess.
Yeah, there was some official, I can't remember who it was, from the Crows on 5AA, who was talking about Zach Taylor. And they said they expect that he'll be pushing for a spot at times this year. So they said they had a very big opinion of him. So, yeah. I mean, I watched Zach Taylor play. He's got skills. He's not big, but he has got skills. And he's got pace.
The other one I think is going to bob up, Macca, is Nankervis.
Oh, well, in fairness, Nankervis, I thought he played very, very well last year. I mean, I thought right from the word go, his very first game, he just looked very comfortable. He looked like he was at home there. He didn't look like he was out of place at any stage.
Yeah.
I really did like him.
Yeah. So, and the last lad we've got, what's his freaking name?
Oscar Ryan.
Oscar Ryan, that's right. From nowhere.
Yeah.
Probably picked 10 or 15 places above where people suggested he might go, if at all. It looks like the club have earmarked him as a Brodie Smith replacement.
Spot on. Absolutely nailed it there. He's 187 centimetres. That makes him about 6'1". And he's a dasher, and he's a good user of the ball. So yeah, I'd see, and he plays a very, very dashing, clearing game from halfback. So he's got a lot of pace. So I think Smith. He must have 1-2 years left in him at most. So
yeah, I would think so.
By the time he's ready to go, this kid will be ready to jump into his spot.
Yeah. Look, to me, Brodie's place should be under pressure this year, in my opinion. He's lost his he's just a get it, kick it hacker now, in my opinion. We can do better. We can do better than Brodie Smith off halfback, in my opinion.
Well, so many times we see how many metres he's gained for the game. He might have 600 metres gained, 700 metres gained. It doesn't point out that he just bombs it and it'll go straight to the opposition, which means it's going to come flying back. If he took those metres that comes back of him, he might be in deficit because he does it too often. Yeah. I was actually surprised towards the end of the year that he did a couple of low passes, and I was really got a shock.
Yeah. Look, I think just the fact that the club's looking to another halfback kind of gives you an idea of their attitude about where Brodie's at. I mean, obviously a fantastic servant for the club, and that ACL probably didn't help late in his career, but I wasn't overly impressed with his work last season. Flashed in and out of the game, as you say, lots of metres gained at times, Mac, but without any real constructive ball use. Yeah, we could probably do better. So, I mean, when you consider Curtin, irrespective of how you feel about the midfield situation, if you consider Curtin as our pick at number 8, and then Edwards and Oscar, what's his face?
Ryan.
Oscar Ryan. Sorry, Oscar, if you're not listening. Probably not a bad outcome considering the draft position or the draft hand that we had, wouldn't you think?
But I, along with many others, and I can't speak for you, Ben, but I have slammed our the team list, the overall list management of the club many times, and think they've really stuffed up. But this year, I can't say that. I think that the players that they've delisted, they got right. I think the players they brought in, they got right. Even bringing in Burgess, I think, was right, just because they played through him, and they're going to just use him as a piece of insurance. I just think they did it exactly right. So this year, I gave them about a 9 out of 10. I just thought they couldn't have done much better.
Yeah, probably the only hole that I can see, and it depends which way you look at a bloke like Riley Thilthorpe, but the only hole I can see is in the ruck, and I know that they had designs on that young ruckman. What was his name? Goda?
Goud, G-O-D-D.
Goad, yep, that's right.
Goad,
yeah.
I was shattered that we didn't get him, actually. I thought he'd be our third pick, and he
looks a prospect. But having said that, we've got Nick Murray's young brother playing SANFL for us this year, Mac, and by all reports goes pretty well as a ruck, and maybe a mid-season draft pick, depending on how our list is looking.
Well, it's very good because we get a free look at him. Right? He's going to be one of our top-up players, isn't he?
Yes.
So we get a free look at him, which is very, very good. The same as we do with young Welsh is going to be a top-up player.
That's right. The thing about their disappointment about not getting Goad is that it shows me that, and NT, you're dead set right, and that's, I guess, the point that I would make about the trading up for Curtin is that we missed Wilson and Goad as a consequence. And Macca, I guess when you're talking about how we managed the draft, yes, we did a very good deal to get up to pick Curtin, but in doing so, we missed the target in Goad because it messed around with our positioning after that, and we could have very easily taken Darcy Wilson, who was more or less a bona fide midfielder. Albeit outside midfielder, very quick. I mean, if you're going to be really harsh, you could say that trading up to get another defender at the expense of a project ruckman and a bona fide quick midfielder, was it the right move? Not so sure.
Well, as I said, you can't have both. It's either one or the other.
No, that's right. Yeah, and we went the other way.
Yeah, and we went the way that. And look, I think Curtin, as long as the lad stays with us and doesn't get homesick and go home, I think he's going to be a very major player for the Crows for many years.
Mm. Well, no, I think that's obviously the key. I mean, he's got, he's got extended family in Adelaide. He didn't seem uncomfortable about being here. Time will tell, I guess.
Yep, and he does seem to be relatively happy to be here. I've heard him several times and seen him on TV. Every time the lad looks genuine, he talks about it. So, but I think that handled carefully and done correctly, he could be a real star for us in the future. And I think if that happens, that totally justifies what they did. I would have still loved to have got that ruckman. But the ruckman's going to take probably 3 years before he's ready to play.
At least.
And then we could have a crack at trying to trade him back, mate.
Yeah. Blade, Nick Murray's not going to miss most of next year. He'll be back by the mid-season break, I reckon.
The other mid-season.
The other problem with Curtin, of course, is that someone's given him number 6.
Yeah, I
Who the
wouldn't have
hell
done
did
that,
that?
but I don't know. But look, personally, I'm not that superstitious about numbers. I think the player makes the number rather than the other way around, mate. So
Yeah, the player
if he's
did
any
make the
good,
number, and he's down farming at Encounter Bay now.
but the player
Oh,
does
never
make the
mind.
number.
Never mind.
It's
All right.
it's who you've got. It is who you've got inside that Guernsey.
Oh, absolutely. Look, if you were to rate our off season, our draft trade period, Mac, where would you put it?
I gave him a 9, which is high for me. Normally, I'll give him about a 5 or a 6, but I don't think there's much that they could have done differently. Thing.
Yeah, I will go an 8. But I'm certainly not unhappy with the outcome. I'm just, I've made my. I just feel like we haven't made the most of our last 3 or 4 years with regards to getting in elite, classy midfielders, and it seems that the players that we've brought in that could be those things, we don't seem to be compelled to play them there. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah. The only weakness I see in the whole thing is we did lose a best 22 player in McAdam. So that means that now all the young boys are all going to improve a bit. So they've got to really improve. For us to improve, they have to improve enough to cover McAdam and improve more than that again. And, and when we talk about that, we're talking about Rochelle, we're talking about Rankin. There's probably about 4 or 5 of them that they've got to make a major step. If they're a 5 out of 10 now, they've got to become an 8 out of 10. So, if we're going to challenge for finals this year, those young boys really have to step up.
No doubt about it. There's been talk and vision of Braden Cook being played in McAdam's role up forward, and by all reports he's come back very fit and hungry, Braden Cook, and I really would love to see him have a bit of a breakout this season. He needs to, I think. I think he stagnated a bit last season, but he's certainly a player that's got the chops, I think, to play that third tall role. Obviously, we've also got Lockie Gallant down there who plays quite tall and who also had a bit of a nothing year, I think, last year and needs to kick on a bit. I think the fact, Mac, that we were so disappointed about Goad tells you maybe a little bit about how they are going to use Riley Thilthorpe. As much as I would love them to play him in the ruck, I think he is slated as a forward for us, which slightly disappoints me. He'll obviously have stints in the ruck, but I think he is at this stage a key forward for us. As I was going to say, we've got Nick Murray's younger brother. Is it younger brother? I think in the 2s, who goes all right in the ruck, which we may pick up as a mid-season draft sort of cover in that role. So yeah, I think.
This stage, sorry, Feenix, to say at this stage we can't pick up anybody unless there's an injury because
no, that's right.
We're totally full.
Well, is Harry on long-term injury? He'd be the one. He'd be the one to go on the LTI.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what the latest report was.
I don't think they've put anyone on the LTI at this stage, so I don't think they can actually. So Harry would go on the LTI, and that would be enough to bring Murray in.
Yeah, but he's probably due to come back, Harry, about like 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the year.
No, well, I mean it's really speculative because Achilles could take it forever, mate.
It could.
So, look, but I think we're in a position now with our list, Macca, where our age profile is a little bit better. Our youth pool is a lot better. We've still got a little bit of deadwood around the edges, blokes like Ned McHenry and even though the club loves him, Lockie Murphy, some people like that around the edges. I think now it's a matter of those kids coming up, and in order to Lockie Scholes, another one, those kids coming up and actually A, being given the opportunity, and B, taking them when the opportunities are given to them.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Pete, and that's going to be the story of whether we move up or whether we just stagnate. And look, there are a lot of talented kids there, and they just have to take that one step further up. When you look at our season last year, we lost, what was it, 5 or 6 games by a goal or less?
Yeah.
And if you win those games, you're up you're probably close to top 4. Collingwood, on the other hand, they probably won about maybe 6 or 8 games, maybe more, by less than from 1 to 2 goals. It's a difference between being a good side and being a side that is one day going to be good type thing. So I think that's the difference. If you start winning those games alone, you're going to improve.
Yep. I think the key, Macca, as far as I'm concerned, is all around the coach and the coaching panel.
Yes, I have to agree with that.
I think yep. We cannot afford to be bedazzled by a near finals appearance. I think we can't afford to be bedazzled by blokes like Matty Crouch picking up 35 touches for 3 yards gained and that sort of stuff. I really wanted you to spit your drink then.
I nearly did.
I think we have to push on with giving lads opportunities. Poor old Sam Berry stagnated last year. He's stripped back fitter. He needs an opportunity, but will Matt Crouch stand in his way? Will Sam Berry stagnate for another 12 months in the twos and then go somewhere else? Will what role is Rory Sloane going to play? Is he going to be a senior player who plays the majority in the SANFL and helps the development of the younger kids? Or is it going to be a situation of no one tells Rory he can't play and we see him still having a role to play in the middle? Ben Keys is another one. Lockie Murphy is another one. Ned McHenry is another one. We've got players that seem to be favoured by the club that are in positions that will be holding younger lads back. And my concern with the coaching panel is that they will be too conservative if we get off to a good start, and we'll talk about the draw in a minute. If we get a good start, we will go into play the experience, and blokes like Luke Pedler won't get a run where he should be. Rochelle, Rankin, those blokes won't get a run where they should be played, and we miss a year of opportunity of development. I think 2024 is all about Matthew Nix and the coaching staff.
Look, I can't agree more than that. I know we could be very likely to start off with the traditional Crouch situation, but as I said before, those players, they should be pushing so hard that they have to put Pedler in there as in the midfield. They have to put Rochelle in the midfield. They have to put Rankin in the midfield. Because they'll do that by when they have their stint in there by just making it look so much better, and which it will be, because you've got that different type of player in there. So
correct.
And I'm not knocking Matt Crouch. I think Matt Crouch tries very hard to get the ball, and as I say, I'm not against him starting off, but I'll be very much against him being there at the end of the year. That's for sure. He's got to be worked out of the team by the other young lads. But
that's not no. That's a contradiction, Macca, because you were happy with him giving him a 2-year deal. He's not old enough to be retired, so if you're happy for him to get a 2-year deal, then you think he's a first 22 player. He's not Matt Crouch. If he is doing Matt Crouch things, he will not be not selected. He will be selected every week.
Well, let's wait and see. I don't know. I don't want him to have to play every game, mate. Don't get me wrong. Last year, I thought he did a good job when he came in towards the end of the year, but that's not what we got. That's not going to take us to a premiership. It's not going to take us deep into the finals. So we do have to have those younger blokes who with more pace, more speed, different style of play in there. So I'm in total agreement with you. I don't know whether the club is going to be that brave on day one.
No, and that's why I feel like that's one of the keys for 24. And we haven't heard anything more about Matthew Nicks and his contract. The expectation is that he might be extended over the off-season, Mac, and we might actually have a chat and ask them the question on Wednesday when we're down at the club talking with Timmy Silvers, and see if we can get any sort of inkling as to what the club's feel is on that. And thanks to the Adelaide Footy Club for inviting us and one or two other podcasts down to the club, so there'll be some content coming out around that. I think it's a massive year for the coaching staff.
Do you know how many people are going down there, Feen?
Just the important people and a few others.
Okay.
The club usually invite. Over the last couple of years, they've invited all the Adelaide Crows podcast down. So I'd imagine Nuz will be down there from Sensible. I'd imagine the Crowjack boys will be down there, and the Here We Crow lads, who, by the way, Here We Crow absolutely hijacked my local pub, the TA, who I was going to go and bloody get sponsorship off, and now they're bloody doing it from the top room at the TA. I'm never going to drink there again. Assholes.
Well,
I have to go to the bloody Ed now to drink.
They just got in first, mate.
Yeah, assholes. Anyway, it's all good fun. So I'd imagine there'd be a few podcasts down there, and if it went the same as last year, we'll ask a few questions, and we'll probably get 5 or 10 minutes with Tim just to record something. So that'll be great, and we appreciate the club for that. Mate, 1990, what are you talking about? Give up the drink. Can't you go down to the pub for a steak or a schnitty? Why do you assume that I'm going down there to drink? 1990. Anyway, what I will say, sorry, Mac. What I will say is that given that it's Nick's is under the blowtorch a little bit in the first. That's the first drink I've had all weekend. 1990, and I have to have it to put up with Macca and now you in the chat. What do you got there, Mac? Lemon lime bitters, or you're on the water because you've had red wine all day?
I'm on the recovery process with water.
Given that Nick's is under the blowtorch, I reckon in the first half of next season, our draw is a bit challenging, in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, a lot of people said, Crows have to get off to a good start, but you are right. It is a bit of a challenging draw. I mean, we do then get a patch, which I think is quite good, but I saw that some tipster was forecasting where teams would be after the first 6 rounds, and he had us winning 3 games of our first 6, and that's quite possible.
Yeah,
it is a tough draw to start off with.
It is a tough draw to start off with. I'll just put it up on screen for people that haven't seen it yet. We start off with the Gold Coast up in, and what do you think of that round 0 crap, Mac?
Well,
I think first few games up north.
I think the person who came up with that is demented.
That's our new CEO.
Yes, well, Is that a
Good
woman?
start. Good start by the lawyer.
No, who is it? Oh no, what's his name? That's the guy that was. Yeah, no, it's one that Dylan. It's one of the most stupid things I've ever seen. It is just ridiculous. Actually, it's farcical. It just, I think, makes a mockery of the whole bloody game to have those four up there up north, and they're doing it because they're trying to dive in because there's no rugby on that particular week. And
Correct.
I think you're bloody desperate if you have to do that and to stuff up the whole rest of the competition. And then you're going to have round one after you've got these four teams playing up in Sydney and
Brisbane, Queensland.
Yeah, I can't remember. I couldn't remember what Gold Coast ground's called.
Heritage Bank Stadium this year, Metricon, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that one.
So we've got we've got Gold Coast away to start off.
It's not going to be easy.
No, well, mate, first game under Hardwick. Came home with a wet sail last season. Recruited very well. Certainly a top 8 threat in my opinion this year. That's not an easy start. Then we come home and played Geelong at Adelaide. That could go either way. We tend to have a good record against Geelong in the handful of times in our history that we've played them at Adelaide Oval, and they are on the wane a bit, so you'd expect that to be a win.
Yep.
But then we got Freo. So we go from Gold Coast, we stop off at home, and then we're all the way to Freo at Optus. And then back for Melbourne at home. And this is the thing I've noticed, our home games are difficult, right? And then we got Carlton at Marvel, and they're up and about, obviously. Essendon at home. North in bloody Tasmania, which is a bit of a graveyard for us, and could go either way, given our form down there. The Showdown, the Lions at home. The Lions don't play very well at Adelaide Oval. Collingwood at the bloody G. Write that one off.
Jeez.
West Coast at Adelaide Oval. Hawthorn at the G.
God.
Richmond at Adelaide. Like, it's a tough first half of the season, in my opinion, mate.
It's very, very hard. It's very tough. If we can get through the first half of the season and be slightly ahead of the ledger, we've got a better run coming home. And so, yeah, it's going to be hard. So we got our wishes, but they got their ways of always getting even with us. So, yeah, you can have home games, and you can have,
that's right.
That's
right.
You're not going to have the easy team. Yeah. So
let's look at the back half of the season. Where's this easy patch that you were talking about?
Well, I'm just saying by comparison.
Giants at home, Lions at Gabba, St Kilda at home, Essendon at Marvel. So Essendon's a double up, Hawthorn's a double up, Geelong's a double up. Bulldogs, we don't actually play the Bulldogs until round 22.
Yes, and we don't have to go to that shithole at Ballarat either.
No, I can't remember the last time we played Western Bulldogs at Adelaide Oval. Then the Showdown round 23, and then the Swans away to finish off the season. So bookend away games, and obviously Port Adelaide. The Showdown is an away game, I believe. The second one. So 3 of our last 4 games. Yeah, God. It's not an easy draw. I think the club would have looked at that and gone, whoa, we're playing with the big boys now.
We are. There's no doubt about it. We are. And that's why I say we can't play at the same level as we did last year. We have to lift just that little bit to be competitive at that level. We've got to improve by 2 or 3 goals at least.
And this is the litmus test for Nix Macca, in my opinion, because it's not an easy start, and a couple of things could happen. We could either get off to a flyer with some senior players in, and then he plays the seniors all year, or we tank the first few games playing the kids, and he doesn't stick with them.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And as far as Nix is concerned, I think he's a little bit on trial this coming season.
Oh, 100%.
I think. And I reckon it'd be wrong by the club to, in the off season or in round 1 or 2, give him a 2-year extension. I think you've got to look at the situation around 8 or 9. look and see what's happening then.
Yeah, 1990. If we play the kids and win, then that's on the kids, isn't it? I mean, that's good selection, and that's what we want to see. I want to see them play the kids, irrespective. If we go back a notch or two because we're playing inexperienced kids, I think that's probably more an indictment on our selection of 2023 more than anything else. The last thing that I want is to us to revert back to conservative senior selections. I'm with you, Mac. I think if the club hangs off on the extension on Nix, I think that shows a level-headed decision-making process that sort of flies in the face of previous boys' club kind of appointments, which will be good. But if you get signed in the off season, then I think maybe things are just a little bit comfortable.
Well, for example, you take Kenny and with Port. I mean,
I don't want to.
They signed him. No, I love Kenny as a bloke, and I love him to be there forever because I'll never win a flag. But they signed him before the finals, which they lost. Went out in straight sets. I mean, which is stupid. Now they've got Kenny there again now for another couple of years, and he's had 11 years or something so far. And
yeah, but I don't care about that. I don't care about that.
But the point I'm making there, Feen, is really they've been loyal to Kenny and keep re-signing him, and they still haven't won a bloody flag. In fact, they're probably going worse rather than better. And we don't want to fall into that trap with Nix. Nix has got to either perform or we get somebody who can.
Yeah. And look, no question, Matty Nix has done an excellent job with a rebuilding list, I think. Gelled the club, gelled the kids, all the rest of it. But I was critical of him at times during 2023 for some selections. I don't know whether he's got the chops to take us to the next level. And history and statistics will tell you that no coach has ever come from a 30% win-loss record, Macca, to win a premiership. No coach.
I know.
Ever.
I know.
So
he'd be rewriting history if he did.
And look, good luck to him if he. I don't think there are many clubs. Our Clarkson is probably the last coach that I can think of that has gone from zero to hero. And even he didn't have a win-loss record that low.
No, we really did come from the basement. We certainly were down right there.
Yeah. So look, all the best to Matty Nix and the coaching staff, because obviously we want success for our club and we want them by association to be successful. We're here just making comments, of course, and there's a lot of the club, like, we're away from the feel good stage of developing now, aren't we, Mac? And now we're in the cutthroat stage of contending, and people in those positions get found out. It's very easy to make decisions in the feel good stage, but now we're in the winning stage. And hard decisions have to be made, and decisions amongst people who are friendly and all the rest of it, and colleagues need to be made, and that's where you find out whether there's an appropriate decision-making structure and the people within those spots have the agates to make decisions when they have to.
100% agree, and I think. We've done the hard work in terms of getting some quality players into the club, and we've drafted some good juniors who've now got a year or two or three in some cases under their belt. It is time now to start delivering, and we nearly did it last year. We nearly did it, and this year we've got to do it because as we went through the draw there. Every other team's going to improve too, things. So, I mean, we have to improve. That's
exactly right.
So we have to improve enough to be at the same rate as they are, and then a little bit more than that to go up the ladder. There are going to be some that are going to have hefty falls. I think, for example, Freo, I don't think they're going to be in a good spot. I don't think Geelong are going to be in a good spot. There's a couple of clubs there on paper, and everything's on paper, It looked like they could be in for not one of their better years. But, we're in a position where we should be in a position where we improve this year to the point where we definitely make the 8. That's a given. If we don't make the 8, we have failed massively. And we should probably be, if we don't make 6 spot, I reckon we'd probably fail.
Well, just before we move on to that discussion, Mac, I just want to thank the people that have joined us tonight on Discord and also on YouTube. We've got about 50 viewers on YouTube, which, given I didn't give anyone any notice, is pretty amazing. So thanks to you guys who joined us on YouTube. We've got we've got about 15 or so in the audience. If anyone in the Discord audience there wants to have something to say, feel free. Last one for the season to put your hand up, and we'd love to have you on. Mac, who do you see as the sliders for next season?
Yeah, well, I definitely see Geelong as a slider. I definitely see Freo as a definite slider. Just trying to think. I think, strange enough, I think Melbourne could slide a little bit. What
do you think about the Bulldogs? I think Luke
Bulldogs,
Beveridge is
I
in.
could see them sliding. Oh,
Luke Beveridge is in a bit of trouble. I think there's some pressure on Luke Beveridge. They love him down there at the doghouse or whatever they call it, but I don't know whether he's got all the players now. The whispers about Bailey Smith and all the rest of it, and they seem to be a bit of a two-man band last year with Bontempelli and Liberatore and English in the ruck and, not a lot else. I reckon they slide.
Yeah. I thought he was very, very strange with his selections. McRae on a half-forward flank. I mean, the guy is an extractor of the ball in the middle. And, Bailey Smith, I would have used him more in the middle too with his pace to break away from the middle. I just thought, and I know in the end, it just revolved all around Bontempelli with a little bit of assistance. Too much around that.
Well, I think Beveridge is notorious for outsmarting himself, in my opinion. He overthinks situation. He's got a very good midfield there, and he broke them up basically. So I reckon they slide. Cats obviously, I think, will slide. Their great players are aging. Have they filled the gaps? Probably not. Richmond's an interesting one, Macca. I don't know whether they slide. I don't know about that. Yes, they've lost a couple, but they've still got plenty. I still think they've got enough to be. I don't think they'll make the 8, but I don't think they'll slide low. I think they'll be sort of 9 to 12. St Kilda's another interesting one. A team that you always think is on the up until you actually look at them and you think, well, what have they actually got? St Kilda, I don't know. They don't seem to have enough firepower.
Yeah, they were a little bit unlucky. Their captain, he got injury and then he didn't come back in good form when he's been a marvellous player for a long, long time. So that sort of went against them. And got one of the big boys up forward, one of the two twins. He just couldn't. He was kicking so many bloody points. If you kick goals, they might have won a few more games.
Except when they played us.
Exactly. Except when they played against us. But they are a bit of an enigma. They could easily slide, or they could easily go up. It's just very hard to say. But I think there's some that are definite sliders, and we've nominated Richmond, we've nominated Geelong, we've nominated Freo. I think they are sliders. I think Melbourne might slide a little. Not out of contention, but no.
I'm with Surfs. I think Port slide, and Dags get stuffed on the YouTube chat. But thanks for watching. I reckon the Power might be in a bit of a trouble.
What makes you say that?
I just don't think they've got any. They haven't got any scoring power, Macca. They've got this gun midfield. They've got no scoring power, and their defence is shit.
Well,
They're
one thing
a
I
lot
would
like North Melbourne in that regard.
Well, they have they brought in a couple of tools for the defence. I won't say they're star defenders, but they're at least better than what they had before. They had stumps as defenders before, very shorties. They're
Yeah, I
far
just
too
don't.
short before.
I don't rate the players that
I'm,
they've got in, and I don't think they rely too heavily on Butters and Rosie.
classic, yeah.
Dixon's. I mean, I think Horn Francis will continue to improve and be a champ.
Yep.
So, but North Melbourne had a similar configuration and came last. I think Port's bookends are probably a little better than North, but not that much better. I like the look of the young lad Lord up forward. He could be something, but he's still very raw.
Yeah, that does look good.
I'd be interested to see how they use their young ruckman. Is it Vicente? Because I reckon he's got something.
He does have something, doesn't he? I think, for a raw player, he looked all right.
Yeah, but they don't have a lot of depth, and their experienced players are bowing out. So I wouldn't mind betting Port slip a little bit. Whether they miss the 8, I'm not sure, but I think they'll slip a bit. I don't think they're a top 4 side.
I know about the top 4. I still think they'll make the 8.
Yeah. Hawthorn, I think, are improvers. I think Hawthorn have managed their rebuild particularly well. I think they're on the up, Mac. What do you think?
Yeah, but I think they're like improvers, maybe 2 or 3 positions, maybe 4 positions, but they're not. I don't think it was. I can't see them as being a final 8 team. I think maybe
a year
next
behind us. Maybe a year behind us. Yeah.
Yep.
Gold Coast for mine and Adelaide are the 2 that miss the 8 that are the main chances to break open the 8. And I think that will be at the expense of maybe St Kilda. Sydney are an enigma. They always seem to be around the mark even when they don't feel like they should be.
Do, don't they?
So whether it's Sydney, who else made the 8? Carlton should stay in there, you would think.
Yeah, Carlton should be risers, really.
So, it's going to be quite tight between probably 6 to 10 again this year.
Yeah, I think it will be. And we're going to be one of those teams. And you're quite right. There's not going to be much between 6 and 10.
So what's a pass mark for Adelaide next year, mate?
Well, for me, like they have to make the 8. That's definite. We finished 9th this year, but you have to remember that if that Sydney game had been awarded correctly, we would have been 8th. Or
correct.
Maybe even
we would have been.
Higher,
I think we would have been 6th actually. The way the percentage worked, yeah.
So, and that was missing out on a lot of games by less than a goal. So, you'd have to say we'd have to finish at least 6th to satisfy me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Because I actually wouldn't mind betting if selection goes the way I'd like it to go, Macca. I wouldn't mind betting that we just plateau for a season, and we'll be,
and that is possible.
And we'll be in that 8 to 10 mark. Because I feel like if they do what they need to do, then I feel like we might suffer from some, distracted by the shiny final spot last year with some senior selections. If they move on with a couple of those, we can't expect that to gel straight away. A pass mark for me, I think, is making the finals, only because if we don't make the finals, it's more of an indictment on 2023.
Yeah, I think. Well, that's exactly right, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I think if we're struggling at the halfway point, and Nix hasn't been re-signed, I think his spot will be under pressure. The question is, as it always is, Macca, given there was a bit of a merry-go-round with some high-profile coaches last season. Will there be any quality to replace him?
Hard to answer because, would we, if we were going to replace, would we try for a Goodwin, for example?
Well, you didn't want Oliver at the club, so do you want Goodwin at the club?
I don't
That's
know.
all I'll
really
say
don't
about
know.
that one. That's all I'll say about that one.
Well, there is that aspect to it. I think he's a reasonably good tactician, but he has his personal side a bit more on the side of Oliver's. But
no, that's all speculation, Macca. All speculation.
Well, it is. The other point I remember I gave Adelaide a 9. I think I'm going to make it an 8 because we re-signed Sloan. Sloan.
Yes.
I've got to take one off for that.
Take one off for that. Look, yeah. So, look, we should make the finals. We're good enough to make the finals. I think we're better than a couple of teams that made the finals this season, or the season just gone. So I guess time will tell. But it's a pressure cooker year for Adelaide. Pressure cooker year. There's a lot going on off the field. We still haven't bloody nailed that tenancy down at Theberton. That's got to come through in terms of back office, and we'll ask Silvers about that during the week, hopefully with a positive answer. But on the field,
I just want to talk about them. I'm really, really angry about this. I am really angry.
Who are you angry at?
I won't. Kutz and Tonus, because 10 effing trees. This guy who never paid his bloody fines when he built up thousands and thousands of dollars. He promised to the residents. Who is he to promise to the residents about 10 trees? When you've got the government, they got to down the Jets Cross here, which is very close to where I live. There is a great big area which was going to be, and they were going to put a reserve there for people to go to. They're going to dump the police horses there now instead, with buildings as well. They got to knock trees down everywhere for that. And then Mawson Lakes with the golf courses up there, all those beautiful paddocks up there. They're going to stick bloody houses all over that. So they're going to knock trees down again. So for 10 effing trees, we've been held up by bloody Kutz and Tonus. And the same bloke, he's part of the party that's knocking down trees everywhere when the government just wants to do it. It's hypocritical.
Oh, yeah. And look, the whole thing is a farce, Macca. And I guess one of the questions that I plan to put to Tim on Wednesday is why the club has been so afraid to stand its ground against a very small group of protesters. And a lot of these protesters don't even live in the precinct, right? And my lad, without giving too much away, my lad lives in that area. And so I drive past Kings on a weekend quite regularly. And
you see nobody.
There's a larger population of people on, I don't know, some remote island that I can't think of right now than there is at any stage at Kings Reserve. I've been there and filmed there and got nothing. There is no one there. And
there's more.
It's an absolute sham, Macca. And what bothers me is that the club has caved in to a handful of people on who are running a platform that is baseless, because there were actually going to end up being more trees there, better facilities there than what they currently have. And
166 more trees.
I know, and not only that, but now Kutz and Tonus steps in, and it's not 10 trees, Macca, that he's whinging about now. It's 3 trees. 3 trees.
Oh. Then
3 trees
up a whole
on the Ashwin Parade side of Kings. And because of that, now we only can put in half a second oval, and we have to put up with I think it's 120 or 130 metre training oval until the tunnels are finished in 2095. It's an absolute bloody joke, and I understand that it's a PR situation for the club, but by the same token, if they actually did their due diligence properly and did their own surveying properly, instead of just relying on the vocal minority, then they would understand that no one gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck.
They don't.
All right? And most people are quite happy about having better facilities at Kings.
They're going to be better off. They're actually going to be better off. They're going to have facilities they can go to. They'll be able to walk on the main oval. They'll be able to walk on the other one. But I've gone past Kings, I reckon, probably 20, 30 times in my life, in recent times. And I've never seen a person on there. Never.
No, because there isn't.
And bloody cuts and turns in these trees. Makes me so furious. Yeah, they're coming up the Jets Cross here. They're going to, what was going to be a facility for the public is now going to be taken over for the horses, and there'll be bloody buildings built on it. And as I say, Mawson Lakes, all those beautiful golf courses up there, and all those paddocks up there, they're going to be bloody houses stacked up, and they're going to knock all the trees down there. So they are bloody hypocritical, absolutely hypocritical. I absolutely despise them, and I certainly won't be voting for them this year.
Yeah, it's an absolute joke. When you have a look at the Save Kings Reserve, I'm telling you right now, like, I've played enough cricket on Kings Reserve, and I've lived around that precinct. I've got kids that now live around that precinct. No one gave a fuck about that place. And the woman that is running this whole thing, she doesn't even, she doesn't go there.
I know she doesn't.
I've not seen her, apart from her media opportunities, I've not ever seen her there.
Well, you won't. There's no bastard there.
I need to understand from the club why they are so skittish about a very, very, very small minority.
Yeah, just need somebody who's brave enough to sneak in there one night, put a chainsaw, and knock those 10 trees down.
And I'm telling you right now, Macca, this club gets held to ransom by the Conservative right in this state, because look what's happening at the Adelaide Aquatic Centre now. There's not been one whisper about the redevelopment of the Adelaide Aquatic Centre. Not one whisper. And they are moving that footprint, and they are extending that car park, and trees are going.
Yes. That's so hypocritical. It's so hypocritical. And unfortunately, we've got a Port Adelaide Premier, we've got a Port Adelaide Cuts and Toners, and every bastard that's got a role there is Port Adelaide.
Andalou's in the chat. I would love you to come on and debate this with me. It is about the trees. It's not about the space in the neighbourhood. Nobody uses Kings Reserve. Nobody uses that thing. That every time I've gone past there, it has been empty, or maybe one or two people there. Every time. And every time I go past there, guess what? Thebby Oval's locked. Because that's what it's been for the last 20 odd years. Thebby Oval is going to be fully accessible to the locals. And the original proposal had fantastic facilities and more trees.
Yeah, it just really gets me really angry, the whole thing. And here we just meekly getting kicked up the arse all the time. I think one of the reasons, though, is we're hanging out for their 25,000 contribution. That's one of the reasons why we're probably staying a little bit quiet. But
the thing of it is, Mac, we are making a massive investment, right? We are making a massive investment, and it's an investment for the next 50 years, right?
Yep.
And, everyone's saying, why should we have two ovals? We're a professional sporting club in the biggest sport in the country. There is no reason why we shouldn't have, state-of-the-art facilities. No reason whatsoever. So I don't know.
Well, I don't know. It's really got up my nose. And when they announced that they're going to put the reserve here, put the the police forces here.
And hang on, Macca. Andalus, when you say people, you're talking about 5 people. You're not talking about the entire community of West Torrens or Thebarton for that matter.
Not.
You're talking about 5 people. And you're talking about people that don't live in the area. They don't have businesses in the area. You might see the Facebook comments, mate. You don't know who's sitting behind those Facebook comments. I've been on those groups too, mate. I've been on those Facebook groups as well. The Thebarton residents do not care.
There's no doubt the majority don't care, and they got, as I said, I think you said 5,200 people or something like that on their thing, but most of those don't live there.
No,
a lot
that's
of them
right.
don't live anywhere near Thebarton.
That's right. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, they're not there. So anyway,
sorry to hijack it with that, but it really makes me so mad that the club's getting treated in that manner.
Oh, it makes me mad too. What concerns me, as I said, is we're making a massive investment, a long-term investment. $100
grand.
And look, Macca, let's be honest. We got forced out of West Lakes by the AFL doing a deal for Adelaide Oval. We got forced out of West Lakes. Yep. Right, we had two ovals at West Lakes, the main oval, and we had Max Bashir. Right, so we go to Adelaide Oval, and the SANFL sell down West Lakes, and we have to find a new home. Right, so and then whichever way we look, we get turned down. There's so much space in this city for a facility that the Crows are looking to build, and we get these fucking NIMBYs, and they're not even NIMBYs because it's not their backyards. Right, we get these people that are anti-development, anti-Adelaide Crows, anti-Aussie rules football, anti-development, anti-anything in this state, and all of a sudden they don't remember. And the same goes for the Adelaide 500 and previously the Grand Prix. These people don't recognise how much money and how much the economy is stimulated by a massive club like the Adelaide Crows. Right? They whinge and bitch and moan about a bit of extra traffic or, a bit of extra noise or bloody lights or whatever, and they don't realise that in order for this town to actually grow into something more than a regional backwater, we need to build these things. We need to promote our big ticket clubs. And for a club like Adelaide, who is supposed to be a powerhouse club in the biggest competition in the land, for us to be basically homeless and at the moment training in a bloody dog park out the back of West Lakes is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's even worse than that, because of the fact I know as fact that Port Adelaide, when they wanted to do their extension, there were all these objections from the residents there. The government got in there and smoothed it all over and pushed it through, even though the residents didn't want it the way it was. So, but the government went through, handled the whole situation and pushed it through. And Port Adelaide pay $1 a year rent for it.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's just... It just makes me so mad. We are always the bloody guinea pig, the one that gets bloody kicked in the gut.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, Mac, that's all well and good, but in saying that, why is the club caving so much?
Well, I think the only reason I can put it down is they wait.
I do know the problem, Andalus. I do know the problem, mate. I've done a ton of research on it too. I've gone through all those groups. The club has been soft on this, in my opinion, Macca.
I agree. So
sorry
to hijack that.
No, that's fine, because that's going to be one of the topics of conversation with Timmy.
Yeah, well, it's certainly worth raising, isn't it?
Andalus, I'm not, but my son is, because he lives in that postcode. Anyway, let's move on. We've got Arab Child, mate, and I don't know about you, but I don't think the season will be complete without listening to Arab. So come on board, Arab. Tell us.
He's a good lad.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. Always pleased to hear you, mate.
Yeah, it's always good to see the podcast. I always love this one. It's nice. It's like a good wrap up every week after the game, win or lose, especially when we win. It's
Well,
nice
we didn't
to
lose
hear.
this week, mate.
Nah, there was no games. Nah, just want to quickly ask you guys. One thing I didn't see you guys bring up is the coaching and the structure of it this year. What do you think? No, not going after another senior coach and moving Burns from the defense into the forward coaching line. I just found it a bit odd that we didn't go after a coach.
So obviously losing Raleigh was a big loss, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
Big
a real shame that we couldn't hang on to him. Obviously a Geelong person who's been in the Geelong system for a long time, and they've got him back. I guess it depends on how. I mean, a lot of players have given Raleigh some credit for helping them develop. I guess it depends, Macca, on how much importance you place on assistant coaches.
I think Riley's very good. I think he the way he structures our forward line and the way he gets players to go to certain positions is very good. But I think that Arab raised the point about Burns being moved into that role, and I think the reason for that is rather than bring somebody who's a newbie who knows nothing about the way the forward line is structured and what it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to do, Burns would probably be very well aware of what that structure is, and it was very successful. And I think that's why he's gone into that role, so he can keep on implementing the same type of structure up forward. That's right, and the way the Bulls moved into the forward line, etc., and where the players go to. So that's why I think that Burns went there. As for the senior coach, I think this coming year is really it for the senior coach. I think.
Well, there was never going to be any movement on Nix, so I mean he's still contracted. So I think Arab's talking about the assistants, mate.
Yeah, I'm just saying this is like senior assistant coaches and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could explain Burns moving to the forward line. So I think they've done the right thing there. I don't know what. I think it would be much more dangerous to bring in a new bloke in there, but when you've got something that works very well.
Yeah, I would have loved to go after Stuart Dew, to be honest with you, to help that midfield line up. I think it would have been perfect for us. Oh, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah. he was approached, actually.
That's good. Well, hope that's another loss this year. That's another loss in the off-season this year, which sucks.
Yeah, I'm with Surfs. I'm not a massive fan of VB. It's so hard to know how much input the assistant line coaches have on selection and setup and all the rest of it. But we didn't see anything new from our midfield, both in terms of personnel and in terms of setup and strategy, Mac, did we? And we've talked about it quite often during the course of 23 that it was just the same old. If that's a product of Van Berlo, then I don't really want it.
Yeah, it's just boring. You don't get any changes in there. I mean, he did try to put Murray in the ruck. That was very creative in that one game. I don't know if you remember.
Well, again, you don't know what. I mean, that was by necessity. That wouldn't have been a Van Berlo decision. I just think our setups and our strategy and our structures in the midfield are bland and not adventurous and very reflective of the style of play of Nathan, who was a very good service, good honest player, but had no flair about him whatsoever. So, and I think that's how our midfield looks like now.
Yeah, I think I will say, in defence of Van Berlo, he's got a ruckman who you don't know where he's going to hit the ball if he does get the hit. I mean, many a time if he gets a clean hit, he puts it straight down the opposition throat, and I'm sure that's not what's supposed to happen. So it's very hard to be well. Our midfield it's passable, but it's not great. And I don't think it'll ever be great until we get the young lads in there, and also that we've got a ruckman that could actually give the ball to them.
The only thing that I'd say to that about Riley O'Brien, and you and I are in agreement that he's not a tap ruckman's left foot, but you know where he's going to go, Mac. You know where he's going to go. He's going to tap the ball in front of him, right? So as a midfielder, if you know he's going to tap the ball in front of him, that's where you got to get to. He's actually, on reflection, he's quite readable. If he wins the tap, you know where it's going to go. And I think, we went through this stage with our midfield when we had Sloane, Laird and Crouch, where we would always grapple. We were always, trying to push off and all the rest of it. And we weren't dynamic at all in the midfield. We weren't, changing our angles or coming from different direction or coming from behind our opponents or anything like that. It was all just grapple. And we just didn't have the class. And to me, that's what Van Berlo brings. It's that man-on-man, nullify the contest in the middle kind of thing. And every now and again you get a spark when you had a Josh Rochelli run through there or a Luke Pedler run through there and they just burst through. You go, whoa, that's how you play midfield. You know what I mean? Because it was so abnormal for us that we wouldn't even see it. And that's unfortunately, that's what I feel like Van Berlo brings.
Yeah. Speaking of the midfield, I feel there's like one player there that next year I don't want to see him there, and I don't know. It's gonna sound weird, but I don't want to see Rory Laird in there next year. To be honest with you, I want to see him in the back line,
No
there.
chance.
I know there's no chance, but he's just. I feel like we can get a way more dynamic midfield if he moves back, like putting Pedler in there and Rochelli and Saligo and all these guys. And don't forget Dawson in there. I don't see much room for him if we are going to improve the midfield next year. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
I don't totally agree, because I think Lady plays a particular role. Dawson plays a particular role. It's that third role with Crouch in there, which neutralises the whole thing. That's why we really got to get some pace and speed in there. Laird is he's a fighter and a battler and a tackler, and Dawson is a little bit of class. But we do need that really quick play. Or burst play, like as Veen said before, when Pedler and Rochelli went there a couple of times and did it. That's what we nearly need. I'm not going to knock Laird because he is what he is, and he does play his role. It's just that we don't have the complementary role. That's a problem.
What we saw when Crouch came back into the side was Laird's output dropped, Mac. And I feel like we can't have both of them in the same rotation. And we had them in the same rotation far too often. And Matt Crouch is such a ball getter. And, let credit where it's due. He just gets the ball in those midfield or in those stoppage situations. He just gets the ball. And I think, when you've got a player who's so dominant at first touch, a bloke like Laird, whose job it's been to be that first touch player for a while, kind of gets a little bit lost. And look, Arab, I wouldn't be opposed at all at Laird going back to a back pocket and being our small defender. Not at all, because I think it's an area that we're deficient in. But I can't see the club doing that. I hope that what the club do is rotate Matty Crouch and Laird so that they have minimal time together in the same rotation, because it stagnates us.
Well, I hope they don't play Crouch at all, to be honest with you.
Oh, they're definitely going to play Crouch. They wouldn't have signed him if they weren't going to play him, mate, in my opinion.
I think he got a 2-year extension, didn't he?
Yep.
Too much. And what do you think of Wayne? And one last one is what do you think of Wayne Miller next year? What do you see his role? Because I want to see him more up forward and in that wing role, or getting closer to the midfield, inside midfield role. That's what I want to see Wayne Miller on.
I think this is a key year for Wayne. I think we see glimpses of him off half back, and he does his little dance step, and there are games where he just gets himself in the right position. He provides a real link. But But there are players coming up that are better defensively, because he's not good defensively, one-on-one, and have the same sort of chops. And if he doesn't, like, he'll be given first opportunity, I think. But if he doesn't come up, then he could be in a similar position to McAdam next year, where he's got a little bit of value, and we might decide to cash in the chips.
Yeah, I thought he actually did step up a bit last year, or the season just gone, Fee. Yeah, I think he's always been a major underperformer in previous years, and I thought not quite had his top, but I thought he had some games that were very, very good. So I think he is suited to the halfback role, although I do agree he's not the tightest checker in the world, but he is damaging once he's got the ball in hand to get a good forward motion going, because he's very evasive and he can often get himself into a position where other players can't, and then create a very good attack. And I thought he did that at times. I thought that he showed last year that he really has got, the season just gone, that he really has got that class. And look, if he improves a little bit on that and just tightens up a little bit on his man, he could be a very, very powerful tool off there.
Yeah. Look, yeah, and he'll get first crack at it, Mac, I think. I
think he will.
But there are other players who offer just as much offensively and offer more defensively, and I think this is where he might get crowded out. We've got to get games into these other players. Josh Worrell obviously off halfback. We've got Max Michaelani. We've got Mitch Hinge coming off halfback. Nan Curvis playing off halfback. There are players running through there, Mac, and there's only so many spots on the ground.
Well, ironically, we had two major players out last year when Duday did his knee, and then unfortunately, then that got followed by Murray. I thought the defence didn't do a bloody bad job when you can think of who was down there. I mean, I thought Keane did okay. Worrell, I thought, became quite outstanding in his role. Hinge was outstanding down there.
I agree, but Miller is not in that. He's not in that mix. He's a ground level player.
No, and then I agree with you. And then I'm just moving up. Nankervis, I think he never did put out a place in the games he played. I think he's got to play as well. So you might be right about Miller, he might have to move. But I think from what looked like a very amateur defence, I thought they played very well.
Yeah, Worrell looks like a beast, especially this year. Like off season, his hands and like his body looks ready. And when we lost Duday, I'm like, oh, this might be a bit of a loss. But seeing Worrell and the way he played, we're set. It was actually a pretty good loss if you think about it, losing Duday in the long run. We got a good pick for him, and we have a replacement for him, and hopefully Edwards comes in, and that could be that perfect replacement, or like that even actually upgrade for Duday next year. Time will tell, but yeah.
If you do a graph of Worrell's performance last year, after Duday got injured, Worrell, his graph climbed very, very steeply upwards. He just got better and better and better. And I thought he was a real beast, playing really, really well at the end of the season in that position.
Well, he showed composure, didn't he? Composure that he probably didn't have in his first couple of games. So, Arab, you're a mainstay on this show, mate, and we appreciate your input. Thank you very much, sir. Enjoy the festive season.
Will do. You too. See you,
Very
Macca.
good. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, see you, mate.
All right, we've probably got a couple of minutes left if anyone else wants to come on. The last one that I want to, and I think 1990 or someone else, Surfs Oz might have brought it up. Chase Jones, Max, another at a bit of a crossroads this year, I reckon.
I thought he was quite good last year.
I didn't say he wasn't good. I'm just saying, where does he play? How does he fit? How do we use him?
he's flexible. I think he played very well on the wing. He played very well at half back. I wouldn't like to be picking the side at the moment. Well, you know, we'll have pre-season games and it'll work itself out. But there are so many players that could be playing in a position, and there's going to be some sad boys to miss out because you can't put them all in. But I think Jones had a pretty good year. I think he's got a spot somewhere, whether it be wing or half back, and most likely wing.
Would you play him through the midfield, Mac?
It's worthy of a try. It's certainly worthy of a try plan because he's got tons and tons of pace. And then if you use him as like with crouch head and handballing the ball to him on a burst, that could work very well.
Yeah, I think he got absolutely bamboozled in his first couple of years by being overcoached. And you know, we recruited a kid that was just a straight line bull, and you know, I'm not saying he was at the same level, but many Patrick Dangerfield qualities about Chase Jones: a straight line grunt player with pace. Obviously, didn't play tall like Paddy does, but that straight line burst pace with a bit of grunt, and as he's put on more beef, he's able to get through traffic a bit. You know, there are times where I agree with you, Vardy, that he lacks peripheral vision, but I also think there's times that he suffers from second guessing himself through overcoaching, and I just think they need to make the game very simple for Chase and
Agreed.
Just allow him to play instinctively. There are some players that can get the playbook and memorize the 4,000 different things that you have to do, and you know they're all about it. And some other players just they're instinctive players. So can you imagine Darren Jarman playing in today's game where you've got structures and all this sort of stuff? Jars would just tell them all to fuck off and get the ball and kick a goal, you know. And
yeah,
you know, I think there are some players like that, and I think Jones is one of those. And I wouldn't mind seeing him just get some time running through the middle as that burst player, just to see, because we recruited him as a midfielder, you know.
I know he was meant to be a mid, and I mean he really like last year he really did take a really big leap, because the year before he was really struggling. But last year he started to look like the player that we thought he might be, and still not totally at the level we thought he might be, but if you do a graph,
I think you're a year back.
Upwards.
I think you're a year back. I think last year he was very consistent. I think it was a year before that he just started to show those signs, Macca.
Oh, you're probably right. I mean, there's so many players.
He had quite a good year last year.
You're talking about in 2022.
Last 2023, he had a good season.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in 23. That's still this year. So in the last season we played, he had a very good season, I thought.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the year before that.
Yeah.
But I think that he grew this year. I was very pleased with him.
So, you know, I think you're right. I think the wash-up of this, and we're going to have to wrap it up, Mac, the wash-up of this is that there is competitions for spots. My question, as always, is about class at the elite top 3 or 4 on our list, Mac. We've got Geordie Dawson, obviously, who's that. We've got Isaac Rankin, who is definitely that. But do you want your second-classy player playing in a forward pocket? Josh Rochelle could be that. You know, Lukey Pedler, would you call him class, or would you just call him high? Like, he's not silky, but by God, he's a good player.
No, high impact.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that's the question mark. Do we have enough class on our list to be able to take it to the top level? And will the coaching staff show faith in the kids coming through to actually remodel this team a little bit more, to be a little bit more dynamic and take us to the next level? I think they're my 2 big questions.
Well, and they're good questions because they're all right on the money. The area, of course, is that Teams that are very good teams and teams that are right up near the top, they have very good midfield. And at this stage, our midfield doesn't measure up to that. And it's got to be some development this year amongst the players that we've been talking about all night. They've got the other ones that've got to improve to help make that midfield go up to the level of the other teams.
Yep. Alrighty, just before we go, probably need to give a shout out to the AFLW team who just fell short this year, Mac. I don't want to go into it. There's other podcasts that follow the Women's League more than I do, but what I will say is that I feel like our bash and crash football that's been so successful for us with a little bit of class at either end with Chelsea and Erin Phillips has sort of been caught up to now, and I think we've been shown up for a little bit of skill in the last couple of games of the season and in the finals, and maybe we need to rethink our skill base.
Well, I follow it very closely, and we lost the two finals, one by 2 points, one by 1 point. The difference in each case was both the teams that beat us had a midfielder with dynamic pace, and that's what we don't have. We've got Noffy and we've got Hatchard, who very good midfielders, and they are good battlers and getting the ball.
Yeah, but they're grunt.
They tackle, and they're grunt players. But we don't have. I mean, you take the one that took the medal in the competition, Conti. She's a brilliant player, fast, skillful, and that's. Yeah. It's sort of got the same thing we're lacking in the men's team is that same player. And that
I felt like other teams were able to transition the ball against us, Macca, and we weren't able to transition the ball against them. We would have to work very, very hard to get the ball from defence to attack. And often we were playing so high that when we did get it into attack, it was a speculative shot at goal. We weren't able to keep the ball in or anything like that. Whereas North and North in the prelim and Brisbane prior to that, they were able to run through the lines and actually transition the ball end to end. And that's something I think that really stood out for me when I watched the few games that I did.
Yeah, both teams have a gun midfielder with pace that can burst through, and that's something that we don't have. I think we're pretty. I think the girls are pretty good all around the ground, but they just lack that dynamic player through the centre that's got blistering pace. And well, you can see that's what wins a premiership.
Yep. And I know the umpiring was a bit shit, but I think the two best teams were in the grand final, and I think the best team won it.
Well, what can you say? We had our chances and we didn't win, so
that's right. Well, both times we started so slowly, and there's not enough goals kicked in a game of AFLW football to let yourself get 3 or 4 goals behind.
No, one thing I will say about it, the standard of it has lifted quite rapidly from what it was originally to the point where at least it's interesting now.
It's starting. Yeah, I don't want to get into that. It's starting to. I think there are a couple of clubs that have recruited some very good young players that have taken the skills to another level. And I guess that's what I meant by my opening statement, Macca. I think we're very much a grunt team now. See ball, get ball, kick ball sort of thing. We're not very clean by hand. We're not that clean by foot. We don't have many players that can run through lines. So it'll be interesting to see what the Crows do with their off season with regards to the list.
Yeah, and it's the same deficit that the big boys have. They got to get that quick midfielder.
That's right. All right, I reckon that does us, mate. Look, thank you very much to everyone who's joined us, not only tonight, but during the course of the season. Your support has been fantastic. I won't brag, but according to Apple Charts, we are still the number 1 podcast on the Adelaide Crows in Australia, Macca, despite you and me never getting along.
Well, that probably helps to get a rating.
Yeah, I don't know. My stupid bloody hard drive will force me into some changes next season with regards to graphics and presentation, and I'm always looking to push the boundary a little bit with that. So we'll revamp that a little bit during the course of the year. Macca, you're going to be back next season, aren't you?
I will be, and I just want to thank everybody out there in the chat. I think, especially to all our listeners, but people in the chat especially, because you guys, you come up, you listen to our crap, and we ramble on, and you guys come back sometimes with some very good bits of information and a little bit of advice, and I appreciate it, because sometimes we miss a point, or we've missed something, or we've looked at it differently, and you guys are quite creative out there. And I really enjoy it, and I like it. And so I've got to say thanks to you guys out there, and thanks for all of our listeners for listening. And next year, Feenix and I will be back fighting again next year. And sometimes
I didn't say I'd be back. I just asked if you'd be back. I didn't say I'd be back. You might be sitting there talking to an empty chair, mate.
Well,
pushing all the buttons. Pushing all the buttons.
We might shock them and actually agree on something.
No, it's been good as always. Thanks very much to everyone. Our YouTube channel is growing steadily, so make sure you, if you feel like it, share and like and subscribe and all that sort of rubbish. The Discord channel, the Discord server, I think, has been the best thing that I've ever done, because the community that we've got in Discord, not only during the podcast, but also during game days and also during the week, has been fantastic. And we're up to about 350 odd members on Discord, and it's very, very active. And like you said, Macca, the amazing amount of chat that we have on a podcast, particularly if we have a bad game, amazing. Or it's incredible. We've had more than 1,000 chat messages on a couple of our podcasts, which is incredible. So thanks to everyone. Be very safe. Now, there will be a little bit of content over the summer break. Obviously, we've got our little get together with Timmy Silvers, so whatever we get out of that, we'll chuck that on all our socials, and there might be a little bit of other content on during the off season, but in any event, I hope you all have a very safe and happy festive season. Macca, all the best to you and Mrs. Macca and your family. And
yes, well, I hope whatever's in your stockings is what you want.
Well, it'll probably be my foot, but anyway. So, Macca, from both of us here and from everyone else who's associated with the cast, have a great festive season. Thanks for all your support during the year, guys. And keep an eye on socials when we decide when we're going to come back next year.
Okay. Ciao for now.
Good night, everyone.